Hello everyone. I'm doing a little video to get people ready. This month coming in November is the Store Championships, which will use a block format of set 10, 11, promo tournament cards from set 10 and 11, premium pack cards, and the sneak preview cards. No championship pack cards though. So we're going to go over a little budget Vegeks deck. This was not included in the set 10 last time because it was lacking a lot of cards. It didn't have a super combo, no negates, and you just had to run random black cards to fill in the void. And now we actually have a lot of tools for the deck, making it almost full power. It doesn't have things like the Foo from Draft Box that lets you recycle super combos. It doesn't have Champa for surprise double strikes. But overall, it's still a solid deck. In terms of other budget decks, we did make a video for the set 10 Sword Championship, and the Ginyu deck is still very relevant. I'd recommend it. The Sin deck's actually gotten better because there's more Sin cards that are cheap that you can play instead of just yellow cards to fill in the gaps for that deck. The Pilaf deck with the ruling change really fell out of favor. There's also a skillless yellow Gohan deck, but Sin is just better, so I'd recommend that if you're going to pick one. But today we're just going to go over this one deck. It's going to be a quicker video because of that. We will go over upgrades though, since it is an actual deck that people use. We can talk about cards that people can put in the deck instead, along with the side deck, because the block format is best of 3 for Store Championships. I'm not really going to read the cards because I expect people to know what their cards do when they're playing a deck. And of course I'll have the deck list in the comment of the video so you can read the cards there if you're really not sure. But of course leaders Vegeks. Definitely I love the boost from set 11 for black. If you wanted to also play another black deck, the Black Broly deck is really good, just more expensive than this. So if you really wanted to play a deck, you can invest into the Black Broly deck if it's your main deck already. We have 4 copies of the Unison that comes in the starter deck with the Vegeks. We have 4 copies of the Supreme Kai, also comes from the starter deck. And sorry for the glare on there. Pseudo Super Combo. 4 copies of the Trunks. Four copies of the Vegeta. Both these cards are starter deck cards once again. 4 of the Vegeta Super Combo. It is a Vegeta Xeno, so it can actually be used to make your fusion. If you can't get these, you can run the other Super Combo too, the Goku one. The fact that the set just has Super Combos is way better for it now. That does dig deeper though, so that's worth mentioning. 4 copies of Haru. Since in theory we're playing our Unison for free, just nice to have these as one cost 15k double strikers. 4 copies of our Vegeks Fusion. 4 copies of our Negate. Worth mentioning that this Negate, when used, also puts black battle cards from your warp back into your drop. So we're gonna probably overwhelm once or twice a game, but even then you gotta like count your drop and be careful, make sure you're not gonna kill yourself. So it's very nice to have this, simply for the ability to have those few extra cards to keep yourself safe. 3 copies of the Trunks that pair with the Vegeta coming up next. Of course, here's that Vegeta that it's paired with. We'll go over some changes later because there's a few little things like those that get changed around with upgrades. 3 copies of the Majin Buu. 3 copies of the EX Evolve over the Vegeks. You can put this down to 2, you don't need 3. It's just kinda nice because it's removal. And then 3 copies of the Vegeta. It's another Vegeta for the fusion, and it's just more removal, ignoring barrier. And finally 3 copies of the Bardock. Your opponent is starting to lose hands, So as a late game push, you would basically play this, and you get rid of the rest of their hand. Realistically, you could also drop this down to 2. You don't need 3 of these, especially if we're not overwhelming that much, so that's another change you can make. We'll go over the side deck real quick, then we'll go over upgrades. So the side deck is going to be 4 Shuns. It's a nice 15k blocker when we have our Unison out. Nice protection. We have 4 hammers just to interrupt things we don't want interplay. 4 of the devil man, just because it's another negate, because the deck only has 4 negates main. It does have the blockers though. 2 of the Bardock, it stops wide boards. And 1 of the Massayan, it is removal for low cost wide boards. The reason we have this is because it's any wide board, while this is only low cost. So that's why we did 2 to 1. But in theory, one of like this one would probably come in instead of a Bardock, and then you could still have another one in the side deck if you're changing the deck around, removing that Bardock Overrealm, which I'd say is 100% fine. Now for upgrades to this deck, because you could make this deck more expensive and you could own some of these cards. So there's actually a lot more Vegetas than Trunkses in this deck. So what we can do is remove all 3 of these Vegetas, which means we don't really have use for these anymore, so these can come out. That's 6 cards out. And that lets us add in, I only have 3 of these, but you could add in 4 of the promo Trunkses instead, so that keeps your Trunks count up, and that leaves you 2 cards in deck. You could add things like another one of the Boos. You could add in some of your side deck cards. You can also, what I'd recommend is adding in some of these, like a Kaburas. They're very good answers to things. They prevent your opponent from doing their main line, since these decks are going to be fairly predictable decks in this format. So I'd recommend adding in probably 1 to 2 of those. You could also do the promo Vegeks, but honestly it's not that good. The main reason I'd say it could be used is because it has barrier. So there's most of the removal doesn't do much against barrier, so it's definitely nice to have that option. In terms of SCR, there's only 2 SCRs. You can use the Gogeta, which you shouldn't be getting to 5 in this deck, or you could use the Unison, which honestly isn't the worst in this deck. It's a 25k double striker that can't swing unless it has 4 markers, but its +1 ability actually, let's say you charge something important or something you want on your drop later, and there's something in your drop you don't want to warp, you can put that card into your energy and put a card from energy into your into your drop area, and then do your Overrealm, and then next turn put the card back in your drop, so you can protect cards in your drop from being removed that way. So kind of cool, especially like for example with the negate. You can put cards from your hand into your warp to add this back to your hand. So you might not want to send this to your warp with an Overrealm. You might choose to use that Unison to put this in your energy temporarily, put something else in your drop, do your Overrealm, the next turn put it back. So that's kind of interesting, and I kind of like that mechanic. So if you were going to pick Ultimate to play a SCR, either one could be played. I personally don't really recommend either one, but I'd slightly favor the Unison, purely because of the shenanigans it lets you do when it's a safe double striker. So it also turns on Haru Haru if you don't have your other the Unison out. That's pretty much the deck. You can also go with a Mira route with the deck if you're not comfortable overwhelming. You could definitely play a Mira control-y deck with the Vegeks stuff instead of the large Overrealm package we played, but I think it's fine playing the Overrealm. Just gotta watch out how you do it. Hopefully this was a fun little video, and I hope everyone enjoys the store championships. I might go over the decks you'll see in the store championship in another video. Go over like the expensive decks people can make for it. But even then, this deck is certainly viable even with all expensive decks. Sin is definitely going to be there. Baby will be there even without Obuni and stuff. It just has so many negates. And then it can play out those apes that can mess people up. But I would say, if you don't want to play Sin, and you don't want to play Vegeks or Dark Broly, the next best thing is a green deck like the Ginyu deck we had last time. Basically, any green deck, simply because you can play the Ginyu, and that Ginyu lets you steal Sin, and of course other bombs. So that's why that's relevant. Have fun, everyone. Best of luck with your store championships next month. I'm going to play different decks for the month, but this is definitely going to be the first one I play for the store championships. Let you guys know how that goes. Gonna probably make it a little bit more expensive version. Bye, everyone.